Hey guys, it's Artsy, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a face tutorial for cartoon stuff, which it was recommended slash suggested by a couple people. So let's get into it. So you're going to want to first have a basic idea of who in quotations you want to draw. So what you want this person to look like, what you were imagining in your head. You don't want to just you can just jump in if you're not going to go with color, but if you're going to create a finished piece with like a thought process, then you first need to plan out something, maybe consider doing a few little thumbnails or swatching some colors, because if you don't do that, then you will end up with a character who their features don't really match and whose color scheme doesn't make any sense with, their features. So you want to have who you're going to draw in mind first. Now that that preliminary stuff is out of the way, actually into the drawing. Now, the first thing obviously you're going to want to do is create a face shape. So there's lots of different ones. You can have a very narrow face, a wider face, long, short, and you can use shape language to determine what the character is going to be like. And the face shape is the most prominent thing, obviously, people will notice, other than the eyes. I'll get to that later. So you're going to want to have a face shape that matches the character. So I'll put something up on screen. For example, if you have a square, then squares represent stability, circles represent, I forget, but it's up there, and triangles are simply used for more evil and kind of like mean-spirited characters, but not always. So you want to choose which one of your views you're going to use for your character. So a very long face would obviously be triangular. Um, a face that's kind of more like wide and looks less round but not exactly triangular is stable, which is a square, and then a person with a circular face is going to be very soft and on-putting, so that's very important. Honestly, this should just be called like designing characters because that's what I'm doing right here, but that's all right. I'm teaching you how to draw. Also, disclaimer, I'm not a professional at all. Obviously, you can really tell that by looking at my art. This is just what I've picked up from watching other YouTube videos and just experience in drawing in this field. So take what I have with a grain of salt. But, if you're looking for just a simple tutorial on how I do my stuff, this is it. That was way too long of a ramble. On to the next thing. I'm not going to include hair in this video because that's a completely separate thing. And if you want to see a hair tutorial, tell me. But I'm not going to talk about that here because that's different. It's a whole different thing, and I'm just going to work on facial features and, body type in your face and like that kind of stuff. Now, on to eyes. Eyes are probably the focal point of your piece if you've done them correctly. Not that there's one way to do something, but they should draw the viewer's attention in and look very, even not big, but they should look like the centerpiece because they are. When you look at a human, the first thing you notice is probably their eyes or their like hair or their clothes or something, but hair and clothes are separate. So for now, your eyes. So you want to decide what shape you want them to be. Once again, shape language plays a role. You want to decide if your character is going to have glasses or long eyelashes, because that can say something about their personality, which I know it's a stereotype that, like, oh, the nerds have glasses and the, like, pretty girls have these long eyelashes. Oh, by the way, this is feminine faces. I'm not versed in masculine faces. But you're also going to want to determine, like, the size of your pupils, because that plays a really big role on the emotion they're having. So your pupils will be really big if you're in admiration of someone, or really small if you're like in fear. And obviously that ties in with the other parts of your face too, but definitely your eyes can tell a lot about somebody's emotions. I totally forgot to mention this, but the color of the person's eyes may be important to who they are. Certain colors mean certain things. I'm not going to go into that. That's kind of color theory. You might want to look up a different video on that one. But yeah, the way I do it is I make the whole eye or the whole pupil black. I don't think it's a pupil. Whatever. Your whole eye that isn't white black, and then I make a little part that's supposed to be the highlight, and I make the highlight the color of the eye. So hope that helps. Bye. Now onto your nose. So the nose is important to your race, obviously. So you should probably look up references if you don't know that kind of stuff, like, oh, what races have traditionally which kinds of noses, because you don't want to have your character looking particularly disjointed. Also, noses are very important to use references for. It's hard because they're all so different, and you want to know like whether you want your nose to be like long and look very European, or if you want your nose to be more like flatter and look more like African, or you really need to know what you're going for and then look up a reference for that. Also, um, the direction the character is looking has a lot to do with this, because if they're looking up, you're going to see more of your under, what are they called? Nostrils. And if they're looking down, then their nose is going to look very like pointed down. And if they're looking to the side, obviously that's completely different. So noses are like very difficult to draw in my opinion. So you should look up a reference, and I'm going to put up some examples, but there are so many different types and you need to know what you want to do with them. Also, when I'm drawing noses, you need to know if you want to have a high nose bridge or like a low one, which is basically the smallest part of your nose. I'll look that up and I'll put it on screen if I'm wrong. I feel like this is more of a tutorial, or not a tutorial, this is more of a advice video than a tutorial, but I'm putting up images on screen or videos of what I'm drawing, so with steps, so you have something to look at and something to listen to. Sorry if that's confusing. So your mouth and your eyebrows play a big role. I'm putting them together because they both handle the expressiveness of your character. So you could put the eyebrows really high and position them in different ways to make them look surprised, scared. Surprised and scared are very similar. Nervous, angry, sad, happy, just like neutral. And then your mouth, you do the same thing. Also, your mouth and eyebrows handle a lot of the stylization. If you want to make your proportions a little bit different, like how big you want to stretch the mouth, or how, you know, you want to put it, because I know in a lot of anime, the characters have their neutral resting face is like a really, really tiny mouth. I'm specifically thinking of Cardcaptor Sakura, where all the characters have these really line mouths, and it just definitely adds a lot to the stylization. And then I'm thinking of like Pokemon, where their mouths like get super big when they're scared and stuff. So that's important. I don't. I'm really bad at doing tongues, but I think that you should just kind of like put a little squiggly line at the bottom of their mouth. And eyebrows. You again, it plays a factor. Do you want them fluffy, or they should match the hair? Obviously, put them the same color as the hair, unless it's supposed to be different, like dyed or something. But if they have a lot of hair, then possibly their eyebrows will be um, bigger, and if they have less hair, then they'll be thinner. And then you need to take into account whether they have like shaved eyebrows or shaved parts of their eyebrows wax. It's important. Also, lips. Do they have a cupid's bow, or do they not have a cupid's bow? Uh, do they put on lipstick? You generally, use the same shade for blush and lipstick color. But if your character's not wearing blush, then what color do you use? Generally, this is just a piece of advice that I use. I like to take the skin color, and then I like to turn the redness up just a tiny bit. So if you're using, I'll put this up on screen, but if you're using the color wheel and you slide it a little bit to the left, it should be a little bit redder. And then I use that color, and then I just make it a little bit darker than the skin and a little bit more saturated than the skin, and generally that works on most skin tones. So yeah. And then other details, which really add a big role to who your character is, or who the person you're drawing is, which you don't always need to add a backstory, but it can also add visual interest, so the so the person looking at your drawing doesn't get bored. So you can add piercings, birthmarks, freckles, things like that, scars. Obviously, don't have them have like every single one of these, unless there really is no unless. Please don't add every single thing. Are they a tattoo artist? Do they have tattoos? Think about certain parts of their face can be shaved, or if they are a guy, if they have like what length beard is important. How far back their hairline is. I'm sorry, that sounds so bad. Things like that. Because I know that if a character has pierced ears, then you can be like, oh, well, their parents let them do that. But if they don't have pierced ears, it can be like, oh, they have very strict parents and stuff. And it just tells a little bit about them and adds visual interest. So people looking at your art don't get bored. Anyways, I think that that's all I have for today. If you want to see a part two where I talk about colors and color theory and things such as that, tell me. Um, any other tutorial ideas, leave them in the comments. If you don't want to see more tutorials, feel free to tell me that too. It's fine to say that I suck at things because, you know, everyone has to suck at some stuff. But yeah, I hope that this was helpful. And I'm sorry I ended up going into tips more than like actually how I draw things. Um, it's hard to explain my actual drawing process a lot of the time, so I try and explain it the best I can. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and bye!